What if I was to tell you there are forces at work beyond our perception, influencing the events around us? What if I was to tell you these unseen forces shape the destiny of nations, guiding their rise and fall? What if I was to tell you these spiritual forces are the true influencers behind the scenes, directing the course of history? What if I was to tell you these powers influence the rise and fall of kingdoms, determining the fate of entire empires? What if I was to tell you the victories and defeats of great battles are often orchestrated by these invisible entities? What if I was to tell you the decisions made by world leaders are not merely the result of human intellect and strategy? What if I was to tell you that there is more to the power behind global leaders and institutions than what it appears to be? What if I was to tell you that Satan, the ruler of this world, exercises considerable influence over earthly governments? What if I was to tell you the Bible reveals this hidden reality, encouraging us to see beyond the physical realm to the spiritual battle at play? What if I was to tell you the control of the US government, and indeed all governments, is deeply intertwined with these spiritual forces? What if I was to tell you the scriptures uncover a truth that challenges our conventional understanding of who really holds power in this world? Chapter 1. The Temptations of Christ and the Rule of Satan. In the Gospel of Luke, we encounter a pivotal moment that unveils a profound truth about the control of earthly kingdoms. Luke chapter 4, verses 1 to 7. And Jesus, being full of the Holy Ghost, returned from Jordan, and was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, being 40 days tempted of the devil. And in those days he did eat nothing, and when they were ended, he afterward hungered. And the devil said unto him, If thou be the Son of God, command this stone that it be made bread. And Jesus answered him, saying, It is written, that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word of God. And the devil, taking him up into an high mountain, showed unto him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time. And the devil said unto him, All this power will I give thee, and the glory of them, for that is delivered unto me, and to whomsoever I will I give it. If thou therefore wilt worship me, all shall be thine. Here we see Satan tempting Jesus by offering him all the kingdoms of the world, declaring, I will give you all their authority and splendor. It has been given to me, and I can give it to anyone I want to. This statement was no idle boast. It was a declaration of the dominion Satan holds over the earth. It was a declaration of the dominion Satan holds over the earth. To understand the depth of this statement, we must explore the biblical context and its implications for our understanding of who really controls the governments of this world. Satan's offer to Jesus was not a mere temptation, it was a revelation of his authority. As the ruler of this world, a title repeatedly affirmed in Scripture, Satan has dominion over the earthly kingdoms. John chapter 12, verse 31. Now is the judgment of this world, now shall the prince of this world be cast out. He is also described as the prince of the power of the air, in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 2, indicating his influence over the world and its systems by the collective election of mankind since the days of Adam. When Satan took Jesus to a high place, he was not only heightening the drama of the temptation, but also showcasing his dominion over the earth's kingdoms. The authority over these kingdoms was delivered to Satan, and this authority was not challenged by Jesus. This significant detail underscores the reality of Satan's rule. We might argue that this dominion was handed over by Adam and his descendants when they forfeited their God-given dominion over the earth. This forfeiture gave Satan the control he claims in the temptation of Christ. In acknowledging Satan's possession of the kingdom's glory and his power to give it to whomever he wishes, we recognize that human control over world affairs is illusory. We often believe that governments and human leaders are the ultimate authorities, but the Bible teaches otherwise. Yes, there are people who are in control. However, they are influenced, shaped, tempted, used, maneuvered, and even coerced by spirit beings. The influence of spiritual forces, particularly Satan, plays a crucial role in the governance of this world. The frightening thing is, most people don't realize it. They are completely unaware of it. As 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 4 states, Satan is the god of this age, reinforcing the notion that his rule is significant and real. This world has a god, make no mistake about it. He is the anointed cherub that covers. Therefore, he is a highly exalted creature. It will be difficult to find a created being on the same level as him. The only one who I believe is on the same level would be Michael the archangel, because we see on multiple instances where they directly confront one another. Satan is the god of this age. This understanding reframes our perspective on world events and governance. The activities we witness are not merely the works of human hands or the plotting of human governments. Instead, they are influenced by the spiritual forces at play, with Satan exercising a substantial degree of control. This spiritual dimension is often overlooked, yet it is a central theme in the Bible's portrayal of world events. While Satan may have a degree of control, it is temporary and subordinate to God's sovereignty. This duality reminds us that while we navigate a world influenced by spiritual forces, we must also place our trust in God's ultimate authority and plan. Chapter 2. The Spiritual Realm and Earthly Nations in Daniel 10. As we delve into the second chapter of our sermon, we take a detour back to the Old Testament, to the book of Daniel, where we find an extraordinary insight into the spiritual forces at work behind earthly nations. Daniel 10 provides a fascinating glimpse into the intersection of the heavenly and earthly realms, revealing how spiritual entities influence national affairs. In Daniel 10, the prophet is deeply distressed about the future of his people who are in exile in Persia. He prays earnestly for understanding and guidance. In response, a heavenly angel is dispatched with the answer to Daniel's prayers. However, this angelic messenger encounters significant opposition. He is obstructed by a demonic being referred to as the Prince of Persia, who hinders his journey for 21 days until Michael, one of the chief princes, comes to his aid. Daniel chapter 10 verses 11 to 13. And he said unto me, O Daniel, a man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak unto thee, and stand upright, for unto thee am I now sent. And when he had spoken this word unto me, I stood trembling. Then said he unto me, Fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that thou didst set thine heart to understand, and to chasten thyself before thy God, thy words were heard, and I am come for thy words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. But lo, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, and I remained there with the kings of Persia. This encounter reveals a critical aspect of spiritual warfare, the presence of spiritual entities associated with earthly nations. The Prince of Persia is not a human prince, but a powerful demonic being opposing God's message and work. This obstruction indicates a high level of influence and control exerted by spiritual forces over national affairs. Daniel chapter 10 verses 19 to 20. And he said, O man greatly beloved, fear not. Peace be to you. Be strong. Yes, be strong. So when he spoke to me, I was strengthened and said, Let my Lord speak, for you have strengthened me. Then he said, Do you know why I have come to you? And now I must return to fight with the Prince of Persia. And when I have gone forth, indeed the Prince of Greece will come. Furthermore, Daniel 10 introduces us to three different princes, the Prince of Persia, the Prince of Greece, and Michael, the Prince of Israel. Each of these princes represents a spiritual entity linked to a specific nation. The opposition faced by the angelic messenger highlights the reality that these spiritual princes wield significant power, influencing events within their respective nations. While the Bible does not explicitly state that every nation has a corresponding spiritual prince, the implication is clear. The mention of these three princes suggests a broader principle that spiritual entities are actively involved in the affairs of nations. This understanding aligns with the New Testament's portrayal of spiritual warfare and the influence of demonic forces on world events. Could it be that other nations also have princes associated with them? Could it be that the United States has a prince associated with this nation, influencing its politics and society? Could it be that countries like Canada, north of America, have their own spiritual prince? Could it be that the United Kingdom, known in history for its vast empire which, at its peak, ruled over roughly 458 million people, about 25% of the world's population at the time, has a prince? Could it be that the United Arab Emirates, rich in natural resources, has a prince? Could it be that a country like India, which currently has the most people on Earth with 1.42 billion, has its own prince? What about South Africa, Russia, China, France, Nigeria, Australia, Japan, North Korea, and South Korea? Could these nations each have princes associated with them, influencing their rise and fall, their victories and defeats? I do not have the answer to these questions because the Bible does not explicitly state this. However, it is an interesting thought that I ponder at times. The idea that spiritual entities, both good and evil, could be actively shaping the destinies of nations is a compelling notion. What I know for sure, as confirmed in the Bible, is that Michael the Archangel is the Prince of Israel. He will stand up to protect Israel during the end times, especially during the period of Great Tribulation. The connection between the spiritual and earthly realms is further emphasized by considering the modern context. Iran, the modern-day Persia, continues to be at odds with Israel. This ongoing conflict suggests that the spiritual prince of Persia, who opposed God's messenger in Daniel's time, may still be at work today. The persistence of this conflict underscores the enduring influence of spiritual forces on national and international relations. By exploring Daniel 10, we gain a deeper understanding of the spiritual dynamics at play behind earthly governments. This chapter reinforces the premise of this sermon, that the visible actions and decisions of human governments are influenced by unseen spiritual forces. Both the temptations of Christ and the encounter in Daniel 10 reveal the profound influence of spiritual forces over the governments of this world. Satan's dominion over earthly kingdoms and the opposition of demonic princes to God's messengers highlight the reality that human affairs are not solely governed by human decisions. By understanding these spiritual dynamics, we gain insight into the true nature of the control exerted over the U.S. government and other nations, reminding us of the ongoing spiritual battle that shapes our world. Chapter 3. The Antichrist, empowered by Satan. Who is the Antichrist? Who gives him his power? Who bestows upon him his authority? Who enables his rise to dominance over the nations of the world? These are critical questions that we must explore to understand the true nature of this future world leader. As we delve into the scriptures, we uncover the profound truth that the Antichrist is not merely a human political figure, but is deeply empowered and supported by Satan himself. In Revelation 13 verse 2, we find that the dragon gave him his power and his throne and great authority. The dragon, as described in Revelation 12 verse 9, is Satan. Here we see a direct transfer of power from Satan to the Antichrist, establishing him as the ruler of the earthly kingdoms. This connection between Satan and the Antichrist is crucial because it reveals who is really in control of the world's governments, despite God's ultimate sovereignty over all creation. Satan's temporary dominion over the world's systems allows him to manipulate and influence them through the Antichrist. This Antichrist, this world leader, is not just supported by Satan, he is empowered by him. The Bible tells us that Satan's power and authority are vested in the Antichrist to fulfill Satan's own purposes. Revelation 13 verse 4 states, "They worshipped the dragon who gave authority to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, 'Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him?'" This verse highlights the extent of the Antichrist's power and the worship he receives, which mirrors the worship that Satan has always desired for himself. To understand why Satan empowers the Antichrist, we must revisit the concept introduced in chapter 1. Satan offered Jesus all the kingdoms of the world, but Jesus refused his offer. Now, the Antichrist accepts this offer, embracing the power and authority that come with it. Through the Antichrist, Satan expresses his own desires and exercises his authority over the world. The Antichrist becomes the vessel through which Satan can enact his will and fulfill his ambition to be worshipped as a god. The influence and control that the Antichrist will wield are unprecedented. Revelation 13 verses 7 and 8 tells us, "It was granted to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world." This global dominion underscores the Antichrist's immense power, granted by Satan, allowing him to dominate and subjugate the entire world. One of the most terrifying aspects of the Antichrist's rule is his control over the global economy. Revelation 13 verse 16 and 17 details how he will enforce a system where no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. This mark, referred to as the mark of the beast, will be a means of total economic control. The technology to implement such a system is already available today. With advancements in electronic banking, biometric identification, and surveillance technologies, the infrastructure necessary for this kind of control is in place. Consider the world we live in today. The rapid advancements in technology and the increasing push towards a cashless society are laying the groundwork for the Antichrist's economic system. The use of microchips, digital currencies, and global surveillance can easily be adapted to enforce the mark of the beast. We can see Revelation 13 taking shape before our very eyes as the world becomes more interconnected and reliant on technology, creating a scenario where economic participation can be controlled and monitored. Under the government of the beast and his associate, the false prophet, all will be given a mark. This mark is not just a symbol of allegiance, but a necessity for survival in the Antichrist's regime. Without it, individuals will be unable to buy or sell, effectively cutting them off from the essentials of life. This level of control means that the Antichrist will have a godlike status on earth, as people will be compelled to worship him to sustain their lives. The prophetic vision given to John in Revelation describes a world where the Antichrist will be worshipped, and his authority will be absolute. Revelation 13 verse 15 describes how the false prophet will enforce this worship. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. This passage illustrates the extent of the control and coercion that will characterize the Antichrist's reign. Satan's ultimate goal through the Antichrist is to receive the worship he has always desired. Isaiah 14 verses 13 and 14 reveals Satan's ambition. "For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High." The Antichrist's rule is a means to this end, creating a world where Satan, through the Antichrist, is revered and worshipped. The power this one man will yield is immense, and the consequences of his rule will be catastrophic for those who refuse to worship him. The Antichrist will wage war against the saints and prevail over them for a time, as described in Revelation 13, verse 7. This persecution of believers will be intense, as the Antichrist seeks to eliminate any opposition to his authority. However, it is crucial to remember that despite the Antichrist's apparent power, God's sovereignty remains supreme. Satan's rule and the Antichrist's authority are temporary and serve a purpose within God's ultimate plan. The rise of the Antichrist and his eventual downfall are part of the prophetic timeline that leads to the final victory of Christ. Revelation 19, verse 20, tells us of the eventual defeat of the Antichrist. Then the beast was captured, and with him the false prophet who worked signs in his presence, by which he deceived those who received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. These two were cast alive into the lake of fire burning with brimstone. This final judgment signifies the end of Satan's temporary dominion and the establishment of Christ's eternal kingdom. The Antichrist's rule, marked by deceit, oppression, and idolatry, will be brought to an end by the ultimate authority of Jesus Christ. As we have journeyed through the temptations of Christ, the spiritual battles revealed in the book of Daniel, and the rise of the Antichrist, we see a consistent theme. The visible actions of human governments and leaders are deeply intertwined with the invisible spiritual forces at play. Satan, described as the god of this age and the prince of the power of the air, holds significant sway over the kingdoms of this world. His influence is evident in the temptations he presented to Jesus, the opposition faced by angelic messengers in Daniel's visions, and the ultimate empowerment of the Antichrist. This spiritual warfare is not just a backdrop, but a fundamental reality that shapes our world. We must remember that while Satan's influence is real and pervasive, it is temporary and ultimately subordinate to God's sovereignty. The Bible assures us that despite the apparent control of evil forces, God's plan will prevail. The rise and fall of nations, the victories and defeats of battles, and the decisions of world leaders are all part of a larger divine narrative that culminates in the final victory of Christ as described in Revelation 21. This chapter promises a new heaven and a new earth, where God himself will dwell with his people, and there will be no more death, sorrow, or pain.